Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunday service. For those who don't know us, my name is Nayaswami Anandi. This is Nayaswami Bharat, and we're especially want to welcome all of our guests. Some of you have come early for Inner Renewal Week, so thank you for coming, and also our guests on the internet. I'll be reading this morning from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda. These are parallel passages from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. This week's topic is, by thinking, can we arrive at understanding? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. There are many places in the Gospels where we see Jesus in open conflict with the Pharisees. That is to say, with man-made as opposed to true mystical tradition. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 15, we see a good example of how they and he locked horns. Then some of the scribes and Pharisees from Jerusalem came and asked Jesus, "Why do your disciples break our ancient tradition and eat their food without washing their hands properly first?" Jesus, after scolding them for their hypocrisy in observing lesser rules so carefully, while ignoring the much more important ones, said, "Listen and understand this thoroughly. It is not what goes into a man's mouth that makes him common or unclean. It is what comes out of a man's mouth that makes him unclean." It wasn't that Jesus counseled against such wholesome practices as washing one's hands before eating. In an age, however, when lesser rules were given too much importance relative to the truly important observances, cleansing the heart of impure desires, for example, he emphasized the supreme importance of loving God and of communing with Him. The Pharisees, the Orthodox religionists of his day, in other words, had brought true religion down to a level of intellectual hair-splitting. They mistakenly considered the way to understanding to lie through a minefield of definitions, which they tried to refine to ultimate exactitude. Jesus taught, however, that the intellect alone can never lead one to truth. Without love, indeed, there is no ultimate verity. Without fixity of purpose, born of the heart's devotion, the intellect wanders endlessly. It cannot settle for long on anything. As the Bhagavad Gita says in the 2nd chapter, the intellects of those who lack fixity of spiritual purpose are inconstant, their interests endlessly ramified. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning. I'd like to read from Whispers from Eternity. Thank you. I pour out my love at thy feet of immortality. I pluck blossoms of light from dawn's heart as offerings to thee. I have lighted lamps of wakefulness in the temple of my morning silence. I beheld thy bliss space emerge from the dark shadows of my ignorance, where it had been hidden for long eons by my indifference. And seeing thy smiling joy, I know that my own happiness mirrored in thy blessed image, my heart's tiny capacity for love mirrored thy infinite love, my little peace of mind mirrored thy awe-inspiring majestic calmness. I will blame the fates no longer for any suffering that comes my way. Beloved Divine Mother, it was my self-made darkness that hid the glory of our mutual love. Now I see myself reflected in thy bliss and know that I too am perfect bliss, For my own mirror is clear now. I behold thy reflection in it. O thou ever sacred, omnipresent, perfect bliss. I pour out my heart to thee from the overflowing chalice of my soul. Thinking of this week's topic, by thinking can we achieve understanding, sort of reminds me when I was growing up, I had 3 other brothers and we were all a year apart. And I'm sure you heard this also from your parents. What were you thinking? And the state of non-thinking due to lack of discrimination is different than the state that Swami's talking about in this reading of the cessation of thought and the absorption in the divine. But I'd like to first talk a little bit about thinking, because it is actually a divine faculty given us by God. God has created the universe through thought, through cosmic vibration. Paramahansa Yogananda said that God is always speaking to us through that vibration. Sometimes he said that that vibration would speak to him in Bengali or in English and giving him specific directions for the day. So it's really, and then we have that faculty ourselves. Each one of us has created a little world that's unique just for us, a little world that is filled with karma that we have to work out. But it's all because of God. We're made in the image of God, and we have that power of thought. Now, the thought world, the thought plane, is the causal plane. And if most of us, we know what the spiritual eye is. It's mirrored inside our spine, and it's a reflection of our subtle bodies. And in the center of the spiritual eye is the star of spirit, God, unmoving presence of God. And then there's a field of blue around that star. And that's the causal plane, that's the thought world. And it's very, very close to spirit. In fact, that's where Om resides, and Om is God. And that's how close the world of thought is. And, all our faculties, we have lower expressions of them and higher expressions. I was really thrilled being someone that always wanted to merge with nature since as young as I could remember. And Swami once wrote that he said the sense of touch should be transformed into touching the whole universe. And I thought, boy, that's what all of us have wanted, isn't it? And then, the being able to see. We see physical manifestation, but then we want to see the inner light, greater than 1,000 suns. So each one of our faculties is, I remember coming to Ananda the first time in 1973, and I had majored in nature awareness, and we tried to get people to be aware of their senses. And there was a class on the Bhagavad Gita, and it was my first time ever being exposed to it. And the Ananda teacher said, we have to get rid of the senses and go beyond the senses. And I said, but. And he said, oh, it's different. But he didn't explain why, because it was a group class. And it's like we want to get rid of the physical senses, but we want to enhance all of our other senses, on a higher octave, so that we experience infinity through them. Now, it's really through attunement that our thinking process gets evolved. And, Swami has talked about God, through Om, we experience God as the doer, because he said we witness a greater reality, and we realize that we are part of that great reality, and that's just manifesting everything. And if we ever want to be in tune with God, that's the way to do it. And so everything we do, Master said that one of the highest prayers is to say, I will reason, I will will, I will act, but guide thou my reason, will, and activity. And of course it's through attunement that that's possible. There's a beautiful story of when Master, he was asked, why did Rajarsi Janakananda, his highest disciple, why did he progress so quickly on the path? And Yogananda said, well, he knows how to listen. And Yogananda's highest woman disciple Sister Gautamata, she knew how to listen too. She said that I feel such a profound stillness that every word of Master goes directly into my heart. She was so still that when she was ill and she wasn't able to come to Master's lectures, and he was miles away talking, she could hear every word. And she would compliment Master for his talk and how much she had gained from the talk. And he said, "Oh, you heard that, didn't you?" And she did, because of her stillness. And it's through calm, another word for intuition, which is direct perception, is calm feeling. And it's through calm feeling that we really can perceive divine realities. Paul Brunton called intuition, he said that all spiritual experience is simply prolonged intuition. The problem with thinking is that we are thinking on a lower level. Psychologists have reported that the average person has 300 self-talk thoughts a minute. Some even say 1,200 self-talk thoughts a minute. It's a little bit overwhelming, and just as we heard in our song this morning, the me, mine, that's what's going on all the time. And where is there space to listen for something higher? We can listen to the little mind, our mind. If we're always speaking, we never learn anything new. But at attunement, we break that cycle, and we attune to God and to the great mind of God. And of course, devotion is a way to still the heart and the mind. The feeling, it agitates the heart, and it inspires our mind. We think by how we feel. And the way to work with that is to purify the heart. Swami has given us a visualization many, many times. He's told us to do this. And that's every night before we go to bed, is to build a fire and cast everything that we've been involved with, everything that we think we are, everything into that fire, so that we go to sleep as a free soul. And it's a wonderful way to purify the heart and just say to God, even if we are still holding on, telling God that this is our intention, and I want to be free in you. And that exercise is just a very conscious way of saying, God, you take it. I don't want it anymore. I may be holding on a part of me, but I don't want it anymore. There's a beautiful story that Rabindranath Tagore, his father, in his book, he talked about Narada. And Narada was saying in the Bhagavad Gita, in a former life, his mother was a maidservant who served a great rishi. And all these holy people would come to the ashram, and they would instruct Narada about the inner teachings. And then his mother died, and he was sad, but he took this as a great opportunity to go out into the forest and try to find God. And so he, with tears in his eyes and emotion in his heart, he just called to God, come to me, come to me. And he felt Brahma just shining in his heart. And he was so overwhelmed by the presence of God. And it just overwhelmed him. And then that experience went away. And he just felt, he said, I was like a man diseased. I just didn't know what to do. And it was just like he had been given everything. Then all of a sudden it was gone. And then he heard a voice. And the voice of God said, Narada, I've revealed myself to you to stimulate your love for me. And it's only when one achieves the highest state of yoga that I can reveal myself. And so he found God. I don't know if he did according to God in that life, but in the next life. But Tagore's father said that the Lord has given me his greatest gift. He's given me renunciation. He who is the source of all joy flooded my heart with great joy, like a river that just flows through me all the time. And that's the highest gift that we can have. It will be having a Nayaswami initiation at the end of the week. And everything comes from when we place God first in our life. And He only puts all these things in front of us just to see if we'll be involved and hypnotized by everything around us. And if we are, He has to wait until we say, I only want Him. But once we realize that there's no other reason for us to be in creation any longer, because we figured it out. Master said that we should, with the depth of our whole being, offer ourselves completely into the superconsciousness. And someday, without us ever really knowing that day, God will lift us up and bring us home. I was in the mailroom. A lot of things happen in the Ananda mailroom. A lot of conversations, and people don't have to bother to have a meeting. A lot of things just take place there. Well, one day I saw this little, very young boy in the mailroom, and whenever an adult would come into the mailroom, he would go like this. And his heart was just so pure, and his yearning seemed to be so great that I watched every adult, and each adult that came in would pick him up and hold him like this, and they would tussle the hair and just feel his love, and they didn't want to put him down. And then another adult would come in, the same thing would happen over and over and over again. And God is the source of all love. And just think, when we express that love and we say, this is the only thing that matters in my life, is to feel more of your love, and I give you all of my love. And I know that you have to expand that love so it can become your love in my heart. But when we come to the point where we say, only this is important, God will lift us up and hold us in His heart forevermore.
Still your mind if you want to pray. Send all cares far away. Sing and love's ever near. Isis comes, await the day. Isis comes, await the day. Mother comes, await the day. Isis comes, await the day. Isis comes, await the day. Mother comes, await the day. Still your heart if you want to pray. Send all cares far away. Sing that love's ever near. Isis comes, await the day. Isis comes, await the day. Mother comes, await the day. Still your soul if you want to pray. Your soul if you want to pray. Still your soul if you want to pray. Still your soul if you want to pray. Still your soul if you want to. Still your soul Pisces comes, await the day. Pisces comes, await the day.